Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my full Peacemaker Season 2 Episode 4 video. There were a whole bunch of DC Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. They finally started to answer some of the long-running questions since the beginning of Season 1 that ran through the Superman movie, like where did Peacemaker's father get his pocket dimension from if Lex Luthor had such a hard time creating his. Also started to learn what's happening with those other dimensions too that are even worse, even though I think we all believe that Peacemaker's best dimension ever might wind up being Earth X or some big twist. Anytime a character says best dimension ever and you start to notice weird stuff going on in the background, it means it's probably not the best dimension ever. It might wind up being one of the worst dimensions ever. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. We also got some S-tier funny jokes as they were improvising in the post-credit scene. James Gunn explained that pretty much all the actors have to do word-perfect scenes with all the scripts that he writes, but when they do the post-credit scene, he'll just let them improv and just pull the joke on longer and longer. So probably one of the best jokes that they've had so far is just Michael Rooker riffing on all the stuff that he tastes in Eagly's poop. You have to imagine James Gunn just having all the fun, making all of his friends do the weirdest stuff like come be in my movie, then gives Nathan Fillion the most awful haircut you've ever seen in your entire life, bowl cut. It is comic book accurate, but it's terrible. And you just have to picture him on set trying not to laugh into the monitor while he was watching Michael Rooker do this scene, eating all this poop. But the episode title was Need I Say Door, a reference to the phrase Need I Say More in the multiverse doorways he has access to with his pocket dimension. There are 99 different doorways inside the pocket dimension, and they all open to the same space, which is why he sees the helmets of the other Peacemaker inside there and the other alien with the rats that he saw previously. They finally answer the question how his father got his hands on the door with a couple funny payoffs, typical James Gunn style that there's like a hilarious or WTF payoff to a long-running question. The opening scene is literally the flashback to 35 years ago to explain this. He's with his brother and father hunting in the woods at their grandfather's cabin with a big reveal that the multiverse doorway actually came from an alien that they mistakenly killed thinking they were hunting an animal. You notice it's got the device that it uses to actually open the doorways. It can open doorways to the pocket dimension anywhere on the planet, basically turn a doorway into another multiverse doorway. It seems like that's the only requirement, just have something that functions as a doorway that you use for that. James Gunn so far has not revealed which alien that is in the comics, but typically he pulls super deep-cut references, so it is probably a comic book character. And you remember that there are many multi-dimensional characters they've already referenced, like in the Superman movie, the Justice Gang in the background is fighting that multi-dimensional imp character, which a lot of people thought might be a reference to Mr. Mxyzptlk, but I think the fact that it looks way different implies that it's something else. Economos also referenced Batmite during Peacemaker Season 1, a multi-dimensional imp that stands Batman, so the idea of multi-dimensional creatures is not a brand new thing inside the DCEU. But the way that Peacemaker explains it is that his father is dumb as rocks, so his father had nothing to do with creating the doorway or even any of their gear, weapons, technology. He actually stopped short of explaining where his father got all their weapons and technology from. There'll probably be another hilarious WTF payoff for that in a future episode. My assumption is that they get it from some other device inside the pocket dimension, or there's some other alien from yet another dimension that makes it for them, and they just ask them for it. Like his father forced some other being to create that stuff for them when he wanted.
How do you make all them helmets and stuff?
It's, complicated.
He also explained some of the mechanics about how they can move the doorway that they use to access the pocket dimension. It's relatively easy, but it sounds like there can only be one doorway open to the pocket dimension at any given time, because when he opens the new one in his cabin, it actually shuts down the old one in his father's house. The reason why he knows how to operate the doors in present day is because as a child, his father was so afraid of the device that he forced his kids, he and his brother, to operate it, and he just wound up learning that way. Also, I think they did this for plot reasons, because if he didn't know how to operate the door in present day, this episode wouldn't have worked, so he probably worked in reverse from that. Well, like, how does he know how to do it? Well, what if he did it as a kid? Because he found the doorway to the other Peacemaker dimension, we're still a lot of theories about whether or not it's Earth X or some crazy Nazi dimension. But it sounds like something similar happened to that Peacemaker, his father, and his brother in that dimension, where they also killed a multidimensional alien character, and that's how they gained their access to the pocket dimension too. Not clear what the circumstances are with the other 99 dimensions inside that pocket dimension space. We'll see some of them later this season. Maybe this will be involved with the payoff of that weird alien creature with the rats that it keeps disposing of. Like maybe that's tied to this in answering some more questions. Then we see the Argus team with Judo Master continuing to eat his flaming hot Cheetos. It would be weird now if you see him in a scene in a new episode and he doesn't have a bag of flaming hot Cheetos with him. Like he feels incomplete as a character now without the flaming hot Cheetos. They argue about the events of Peacemaker Season 1 just to remind you about the history between the characters and the rivalry they had during Season 1. He makes a Wild Bill reference to Michael Rooker's Red Saint Wild character. There are a lot of jokes with his character in this episode, not just the poop jokes. They start to argue about the logic of their joke and the actual bit that they're doing themselves. Like, no, you're going on for too long. It's not as funny anymore. Basically, the idea that they're both kind of comedy nerds because a lot of the actors on the show are actual comedians in real life. Like Tim Meadows, for instance. James Gunn said sometimes he let those people improv jokes with each other for post-credit scenes that would just go on and on and on. Flurry then calls him Ginger Cool again a couple times in rapid succession. He calls Eagly a parrot, also calling back to the bird blindness, like they're keeping this thing, like long-running jokes, just keeping it out through the season. He tries to get Flurry in trouble with Sasha Bordeaux, who's technically their boss. She's the team leader under Rick Flag, which they then pay off later when she then makes fun of Flurry. There's a lot of good joke continuity in this episode and throughout the series in general. That's mostly because James Gunn wrote all the episodes. They start to make more jokes about the logic of the bit that they're doing in the van in general, arguing about the comedy of it itself. Red Saint Wild reveals he spent a lot of time in Illinois hunting bald eagles, which is very, very illegal in the United States. He reveals he's a huge Harry Potter fan, calling Economos Hagrid because he's so shaggy and so tall. In real life, Steve Agee is 6'6". This is him walking next to the other actors. It is crazy how tiny they look standing next to him. Even David Corenswet, who's 6'4", looks kind of tiny standing next to him. Absolutely love the energy of their team during this first part of the episode. Like, they all despise each other. Economos texts Peacemaker so that he can bail before they show up, who then notices all the bullet holes and the damage around the house, realizing that it wasn't just Eagly having fun regularly. It seems like Eagly does mess the house up pretty regularly, though. Who he finds raiding the fridge, turns out he likes cold cuts, and because of the Michael Rooker poop joke, we find out that Eagly is like a foodie and has a huge sweet tooth. Like he just eats literally everything, all human food, and it sounds like he rarely eats regular eagle food.
Your food's over there!
But at least at first, as they're kind of easing into this Eagly bit with him eating human food, it just seems like he wants a sandwich. Like, make Eagly a sandwich here. Love the joke on Peacemaker's phone too when he tries to read Economos' text, like how bad a speller is he? It's like everybody on this show has terrible grammar. There was actually a bit about this in last week's episode with Peacemaker also having terrible grammar. Then he bails with that pocket dimensional key in Eagly so that Adebayo can come pick them up. Economos calls Red Saint Wild Captain Cultural Appropriation because he doesn't think that he's of Native American heritage. I don't know if Michael Rooker in real life is part Native American. I don't think that he is. This is probably another James Gunn joke just because the whole Red Saint Wild character in general feels like a big walking joke. Could not stop laughing every time Michael Rooker opened up his mouth in this episode. Then eating an old piece of Eagly's poop, paying off the cold cuts bit, revealing Eagly's been raiding the fridge on the regular. He eats all kinds of human foods because he's got potato chips in there too, which they extend for the post-credit scene, which is all the extra stuff that Eagly has been getting into, in the joke that he eats way better than a lot of the humans do. Judo Master doing a weird number of backflips to take down Peacemaker also feels like a Phantom Menace Darth Maul reference. Anytime you see somebody doing unnecessary backflips, I always think of Darth Maul in Phantom Menace. You notice that Peacemaker throws a couple cold cuts at him, so like he grabbed cold cuts for Eagly when they were escaping. And part of the whole deal here is that they want to show that Judo Master does actually have some skills, but because he's so tiny, Peacemaker can literally pick him up with a single arm and just fling him around, like he literally chucks him across the woods into a tree. All of the stuff with Red Saint Wild going on about Eagly being the primal eagle and the king of all eagles in Native American mythology is them setting up the whole Lex Luthor Superman bit with those two characters, with Red Saint Wild and Eagly this season. Think about it this way, Red Scent Wild declares everything in his life has led him to this, and Eagly is like his last great hunt. He thinks that killing Eagly will cleanse the United States of all bad things that have ever happened to Native Americans, so it's meant to be a callback to Lex Luthor blaming Superman for weakening the human race and thinking he's actually here to take over the planet, because James Gunn actually called Michael Rooker's character Eagly's Lex Luthor. Also, the bit here where Economos says he's just making up a lot of weird stuff to rationalize his desire to kill Eagles, that's another Lex Luthor Superman joke because of his plan in the Superman movie with Baravia and the war he started just to create an excuse to kill Superman. Like, you're doing a lot of weird stuff here just to create an excuse to kill Eagles. When he says the wound on his head is his third eye being open, that's both a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness joke, because James Gunn just came from Marvel, and also a setup to the end of the episode where he does actually start to use magic, revealing that everything he was talking about was not complete crazy talk. There was some truth to the stuff he was saying. Peacemaker eventually takes Judo Master down in the most ridiculous way possible by squishing him when he just rolls down the hill on top of him. I actually had a friend in college who almost wound up doing something similar to his girlfriend, who was much, much tinier than he was. Just accidentally rolled on top of her too quickly and almost wound up hurting her really bad. Then they set up the bit with Adebayo's magazine and how she's trying to advertise her business. The early theory here, I think, is that the 11th Street kids are all going to wind up joining with her, and they'll just run their own private team after season 2, because they won't want to work for Argus. Like, the ones that do still work for Argus will quit or be fired. And I think they're setting up the idea that Adebayo isn't getting any business, she doesn't have any clients to work for, so once the others do come work for her, eventually it'll be easier for them to actually get some work. Some of you have said that you called her phone number and it doesn't work, like it doesn't point to an actual number that you can call. Her magazine, also notice, full of all kinds of crazy articles. Peacemaker says that only about 12 people actually buy this to read it. They might also pay that off in some hilarious James Gunn type of joke at the end of the season where we see one of these 12 people.
And all the guys that read it, they're not hiring anybody. They're just watching a game show network, collecting their urine in jars, posting on psoriasis Reddit threads.
She then goes to pick up Peacemaker and Eagly and takes them to his cabin to hide out and starts explaining his pocket dimension to her, also getting Vigilante's help with doorways because he's going to be opening another one, so he needs to have something to seal off the main DCU universe from the other pocket dimension universes. This will be important for later because it'll mean that people from other dimensions can't then break into the DCU, which potentially could be the case if the other Peacemaker's brother and father find out what he's done killing that Peacemaker. Economos makes another Pokemon reference, calling Judo Master Bulbasaur. This is our second big Pokemon shoutout on the show this season. Maybe James Gunn is just a big Pokemon fan because he did write all these episodes, like he wrote that joke. There's more of them arguing about the logic of the bit that they're doing, and he says that technically he has been diagnosed with actual social medical problems, and as part of his employment contract with Argus, she is technically paid to deal with any weirdness from him as a result of that. Love the moment of him spitting right in Flurry's face, too. It's a big loogie who acts like he just killed his entire family. Like, how dare you spit in my face? Bordeaux then using that to pay off the joke from earlier where she gets back at Flurry for being weird with her. So remember, this entire team here, like all these Argus people, just seem like they absolutely despise each other. Peacemaker then explains the other dimension that he found with the other Peacemaker's life to Adebayo and how he wants to just make that his new life. Like, I should just go there. It's a way better dimension than this one. Like I said, they're probably going to reveal that there are some things that we don't realize, like it's a Nazi dimension or Earth X or something crazy is happening in that other dimension that we haven't completely realized yet. But it just seems a little too weird to be true. But anytime a character says best dimension ever a couple different times and it starts to seem weird, it's probably because something really weird is actually going on and it's a really messed up dimension. They did this all the time during the Flash TV show where you would go to other dimensions, sometimes some of them being very terrible. Crisis on Earth X was literally them going to the Nazi universe. Like, are we going to find out that Reverse Flash is the president of this other universe? When they go into the cabin, Adebayo makes another Vigilante Spider callback because of his spider facts in the previous episodes. Animal things just seem like his big deal now, like he loves doing animal facts. We get a brief tutorial on what happens when he actually moves the dimensional portal when he creates a new one and shuts down the old one. There are a couple more bits of Economos' backstory we find out too. He reveals the way he wound up working for Argus and Amanda Waller was initially hacking the CIA when he was 14, which got him recruited by them, and then Amanda Waller just recruited him from inside the CIA. Their trick works, and they move the door before they are able to get inside, but eventually the Argus agents will get inside the pocket dimension later this season. We go back to Rick Flag's office. They show his picture with his son, Rick Flag Jr., also to remind you of what happened in last week's episode with the other Rick Flag. His big backup plan now to use Amelia Harcourt to get Peacemaker, thinking that she'll turn on him in exchange for her old job back, because that's her big subplot in the main universe, the DCEU this season, is trying to get her job back. Also the idea now that we know that she hates Peacemaker for killing the person she was in love with, Rick Flag Jr. She had a relationship with him during the Suicide Squad movie when Peacemaker killed him. So they're just trying to set up the idea of whether or not she's going to actually care about him or not care about him and want the job.
You remember what you told me after the funeral?
The whole reason Rick Flag Sr. is so familiar with her is because she was almost like his daughter at a certain point because she'd been going out with Rick Flag Jr. Also because they both worked for Argus and Amanda Waller separately for a long time, so they've been working together for a long time. There are many references to the events of Creature Commandos, like when he talks about breaking his back, Amanda Waller's bullcrap, Pocolistan, all stuff that happened during the Creature Commandos series. That is all supposed to be canon and take place before the events of the Superman movie. He mentions his son Rick Flag Jr.'s funeral right after the Suicide Squad movie in their whole relationship and the way that they're dealing with what Amanda Waller made them do and what she made Peacemaker do. Like, he killed your son because of what Amanda Waller said. They also bond over disobeying Amanda Waller's orders when they said she went too far, so part of the idea they're teasing is that she will probably try to talk him around, Rick Flag Sr., into not trying to get revenge against Peacemaker. Like, look, Amanda Waller made him kill your son, you just got to make your peace with it at some point, just get a lot of therapy. Harcourt still has no money right now, so all the therapy that she's doing is just getting in more bar fights, which we also see in this episode. There are a lot of people that do stuff like this in real life, like they'll just use Twitter too much instead of just getting therapy. Based on some of the weird stuff that people post, you can actually tell who is in dire need of some therapy. Side note, please do not use Twitter as your therapy. Rick Flag Sr. confirms that Amanda Waller did actually blackball her when she was leaving Argus and she can't be hired by any official intelligence agency ever. So I think this also supports the idea that she and the 11th Street Kids will form their own agency with Adebayo after this, and that will solve a lot of the problems that they're all having on the show right now. She also mentions the events of Season 1 when they saved the world from the butterflies. Seems like most people don't care about that nowadays, like, yeah, that was yesterday, what have you done today? He then basically tells her, betray Peacemaker in exchange for your job back. Peacemaker then tells Adebayo the events of the last couple of episodes in the other dimension and how he accidentally killed his other self. She makes a Twilight Zone reference. There are a lot of alternate dimensions that they got into, the whole concept during the Twilight Zone just in general too. You can also tell that she's kind of a nerd too, because she also tries to question whether or not the door is only messing with his mind and it's not actually real, but we do know that it's a real door to an actual physical other dimension. He references the Dark Dimension, which feels like another Marvel reference. That's the place Dormammu rules in the MCU. Also, it's the place that Doctor Strange went in the Multiverse of Madness post-credit scene. Vigilante shows up with more doors so they can actually seal off the portal to the Pocket Dimension so that things can't get to or from there without him wanting it. Like, the doors are as much to keep people out of the Pocket Dimension as they are for keeping the Pocket Dimension from getting into the DCU. They set up the whole bit with Harcourt luring him to the park so they can capture him. Cooperberg Park is also a reference to Paul Cooperberg, which is an editor for DC Comics who worked on the Superman comics and a bunch of other titles. James Gunn likes to include little Easter eggs like this. Anytime there's background names for anything like parks, streets, anything, it's usually a reference to somebody from the comics. When he says there's a question that he needs to ask her, it's probably about their relationship. Like, if there's a chance that they could be friends or anything could happen with them in the future, it would give him a reason to stay in the DCU. I think he's trying to look for reasons to just permanently pack up and go to the other dimension. Rick Flag makes the smart move to have them take Economos' phone, correctly guessing that he can't be trusted. Like, yeah, he's been tipping off Peacemaker this whole time. Red Saint Wild ends the episode performing a magic ceremony to begin his hunt for Eagly. The eagle he draws with his own blood, I believe the feather is one of Eaglee's too, because it seems like that's the way the spell works. Notice that a tattoo forms on his forehead when he performs it and gives him the ability to see Eaglee from a vantage point anywhere he is in the world, and it allows him to see where Peacemaker's cabin is, so Argus will be able to raid that and actually get into the pocket dimension in next week's episode. So the whole thing with his character is that yes, he's meant to be ridiculous, but he does actually have some abilities, which is true for a lot of the characters on the show. Judo Master then shows up walking out of the woods, revealing that he's fine. Just shake it off, dude. Just like in season 1, same thing happened. Like anytime it seems like he's dead, he always just shakes it off eventually. Maybe that's one of his superpowers. And they go to the credits with Peacemaker driving to the meeting with Harcourt. It seems like they do wind up capturing him and hauling him in for questioning. During the actual post-credit scene, like I said, it just winds up being a longer version of that bit with Red Saint Wild eating Eaglee's poop, claiming that Eaglee has a sweet tooth, he loves sugary foods, candy, he has Twizzlers, M&Ms in there, Fruity Pebbles, Spam, protein powder, lima beans, pad thai, A5 Wagyu beef, beluga caviar. So it seems like Eaglee is a foodie, like he's raiding DoorDash people, just going around eating literally every piece of human food that he can find. I am surprised that all the actors and the people that were filming this scene were able to get through it without actually laughing. Like they probably had to do this a couple different times because people were laughing too much. There's still a couple big unanswered questions, like where did all their weapons and technology come from? Where did his father get them? Like I said, it's implied that it was probably somebody else from the pocket dimension or some other dimension that created for them, or he used some technology inside the pocket dimension to just create whatever he asked it for. Post all your theories about that in the comments below. We'll probably find out in the next couple of episodes. Also really interested to see what's in some of those other dimensions. What I'll do is my full episode 5 video will post next week after they release it. There's a bunch of other stuff happening soon too. We have Alien Earth episodes and Marvel Zombies episodes starting soon. I'll be doing videos for all that stuff. There are a bunch more Batman Easter eggs that people spotted on the Clayface set, like Robin, Joker, Penguin, other big Batman characters, and James Gunn has been talking a lot about the Man of Tomorrow Superman 2 movie, so I'll try to do videos for all that stuff as fast as possible. Everybody click here for that Peacemaker episode 6 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other Peacemaker episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.